Hey, how's it going YouTube? This is your boy Chosen and welcome to part 4 of my Naruto Shinobi Striker tier list. And today we are obviously covering heal/support types. Now if I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty excited to get started on this because, well, they are much different compared to the other three. I know combat healers are a thing, but the main purpose of a heal/support type is to, well, heal and support your teammates. Therefore, I'll be judging these characters a bit differently compared to how I covered the other three. Now enough talking and let's go right into the video. Now, if this is your first character tier list video, well, what the hell? We literally did 3 different ones before. What were you doing? Now, but for real, if this is your first one, how we list our characters is S for meta changing, A for great addition, B for playable, C for trash, and D for waste of a character slot. And of course, we'll be starting in order. And first up, we have Sakura. And Sakura, as a heal/support type, is an A tier character. Now, I know some of you might look at this and be like, well, I can kick Sakura's ass easy with Madara, and yeah, you probably could, but like I said, these guys are going to be scaled a little different compared to the other 3 roles. Sakura as a healer has some pretty good combo attack, and if I'm not mistaken, her heavy attack is an instant guard break. Her first ninjutsu is a Cherry Blossom Clash, and though I will admit this jutsu can be performed pretty well with other jutsus like the Shadow Stitching technique, we are only focusing on cast characters, therefore all that combining stuff does not count here. Sakura's 2 techniques don't really work well together. The purpose of the 2 are for completely different things. Cherry Blossom Clash is all about timing. If you can time where your opponents are going to be, whether it's after recovery or just like Choji's Super Expansion Jutsu, to where you just launch it at a crowd of people and hope for the best. Now I will say, even if you don't connect this jutsu properly, the shockwave of the attack will stun all enemies, and even if they don't take damage, they will still at least take the debuff effect. Next up is her Cellular Extraction Jutsu, and this jutsu in my opinion would be in my top 3 for best healing jutsus in the game. Essentially, this jutsu heals up a decent amount of damage to all allies around you. What makes this jutsu really good is that it counters a lot of things. The ink splatter effect of Sai's ult gets wiped out. Insect jamming technique gets wiped out. All debuff effects get wiped out. So jutsus like super heavy weighted boulder become useless. And then her ultimate jutsu, the Mitotic Regeneration. Mitotic is a great healing jutsu that quickly recovers a good amount of health back to your teammates. Now when it comes to a situation where a teammate dies and you're thinking of reviving them back instantly, unless you really need them on the battlefield, I say give it a couple seconds. Because I experienced situations where I'm hoping to die so I can switch my build, but sometimes players activate the ultimate the moment you die, and it can sometimes not work in your favor because maybe the build you currently have sucks against the people you're playing against, right? I'd say if you normally run Mitotic, give it some seconds before you bring them back so they can at least have time to choose what build they want. But besides this, people don't realize that it's a good counter to ults like Totsuka Blade, Night Guy, or Grand Sand Mausoleum, because despite the long cooldown, if your teammates have this ultimate ready to go, you can instantly get revived back whenever the healer pleases. Shikamaru is an A tier character. Now I know some people would disagree with this, but Shikamaru is one of the most slept on characters in this entire list. I want to start off by saying adding in the healing tech to Shikamaru's build is a real booster to his character. His Shadow Possession Jutsu is listed as one of those mistaken jutsus. Now I know every jutsu is best used when nobody's paying attention to you, that way they can't dodge, but the Shadow Possession really emphasizes this. If you're able to catch someone with this, you can trap them until a teammate comes over and attacks them however they please. Or if you want to finish them off yourself, you can press the jutsu button again, which activates the Shadow Strangle Jutsu, which I'm not mistaken slows down movement speed, resets substitution, and all ninjutsus. The problem I see people make with this jutsu is that they try using it at close range, especially when the enemy knows you're using it. Try using it when your enemies aren't aware of you, and I promise it'll be more effective. The second jutsu is the Shadow Stitching technique. This jutsu, that most do not know, can properly counter Demon Hunter. It's one of those jutsus that is most effective when a player is charging at you. It can be used to target an enemy at any random time, and for the most part, it is pretty effective that way as well. This jutsu mainly deals damage while lowering defense. And last is his ultimate, which honestly is the main reason why I listed him as an A tier. For a jutsu that has such a low cooldown, it does pretty good damage, and if I'm not mistaken, it also refreshes your ninjutsu cooldown while lowering defense. Shikamaru may not be a full support type, but even if I were to analyze him as a fighter, for a heal type, he's pretty OP if you know how to use him. Hinata is an A tier. Her Byakugan works the same way as we all thought it would. It lets players see all enemies across the map. The cool thing about this jutsu is that it increases attack power to all allies when active. So activating this before popping your ult is a killer. Her ultimate is one of the best and most used heal type jutsus. It's a projectile shot that disables ninjutsu while also dealing a pretty small amount of damage. And last is her ultimate ability, which in some cases could be debated as the best heal/support type ult in the game. The Twin Lion Fist deals massive damage damage, while also resetting your enemy's ult back down to 0. Just like Shikamaru, Hinata isn't really much of a supporter, but for how OP her jutsus are and the fact that they also gave her a healing tag makes her annoying to go up against. Kabuto definitely belongs in the A tier. I'm pretty sure his heavy attack guard breaks, and as for his ninjutsu, his cellular activation self-heals for a small duration, allowing you to keep fighting without having to worry about dying. And for his chakra scalpel, despite the fact that it disables ninjutsu and substitution, it is really inconsistent in terms of actually being able to hit your opponents. Even from super close, there's times where he'll barely move forward when activating the jutsu, and that can sometimes be a turnoff. His ultimate is the Feather Illusion Jutsu, which puts all enemies around you to sleep. This ultimate resets all opponents' ninjutsus and substitutions back to 0. In my opinion, because of the effects it does, this is probably the best setup ultimate in the game. I do think its cooldown is still a bit far too long, especially since it's very similar to Ino's ult. And for the last Uchiha on this entire list, we have Sarada, and Sarada is no question a B tier. And remember, I'm not only judging heal types in terms of fighting, I'm also judging them as how well they can support their team, and because of this fact, Sarada deserves to be a B tier character. Crimson Drizzle is a Walmart version of Cherry Blossom Clash in terms of damage. If we're talking about after effects, it disables substitution, which can be beneficial in game. The problem with this is actually being able to hit someone with this consistently. If you thought it was being harsh on Sako's Cherry Blossom, I'm definitely criticizing Sarada for this jutsu. Her Green Rain Ground Hold is not a bad technique if you're able to perform this jutsu without being disturbed. It heals all allies in a circle while also increasing their ninjutsu charge up speed. Some don't know this, but it does in fact do this. It's especially useful in pretty much any game mode. And now her ultimate, which just like Shikamaru, is the main reason why she's where she's at. Uchiha Shuriken Jutsu has one of the lowest cooldowns in the game. It's extremely quick to get, and on top of this, it deals pretty good damage while also healing you and your teammates by quite a lot. Now, to really be effective with this ultimate, you need to use it against someone that is close by to you. Trying to use this ult at a distance will still heal you and your team, but the damage is going to be reduced. Don't ask me why this is a thing, but it is. To get the most damage out of an enemy, you literally use this ult right near them. And for the remaining DLC characters, Tsunade is up first, and she is an A tier character. Nervous System Rupture is a really good jutsu. I know some might think, once you get used to the effect, it's not hard to move around. That is true, but the problem is trying to get the controls down while also getting attacked, because sometimes too much is going on. Her Heavenly Foot of Pain is what costs her here. It's a good jutsu in terms of crowd control, and if you get someone with this, it resets their ninjutsus all the way back down to 0. The problem with this is if you don't have a jutsu beforehand that traps enemies in place, it's pretty hard to actually hit someone because of how long the animation is. It's a powerful attack that comes at the expense of a longer animation. And now her ultimate ability, the Slug Long Distance Healing, which in my opinion, between Mitotic Regeneration and this ult, I definitely go with the Slug Long Distance Healing. It refreshes all allies' health fairly quickly while also boosting their ultimate jutsu gauge. The cooldown on this ultimate is also fairly short, and if you end up having a good game, you can get this about 2 times in a match. Now we have Onoki, one of the most underrated characters in the game. With the added boost to super light and heavyweight, Onoki definitely belongs in the A tier list. Super lightweight increases the mobility of all users affected. It raises the speed of your ninjutsu cooldown while also adding a small amount to the gauge of your ultimate ability. The super heavyweighted boulder greatly decreases the speed of all enemies affected. It slows down their ninjutsu cooldown by a lot and also takes away a small portion of their ultimate ability. Onoki is perfect for crowd control. His ultimate ability is the particle dismantling jutsu, and this technique isn't the greatest. I'll admit it, its tracking is pretty slow, and if you can see it coming, you don't even need to be an experienced player to know how to dodge it, because like I said, it's not the greatest ultimate, which sadly stops Onoki from reaching that S tier category. Now I will say, if you want to be more effective with this ult, try using super heavy weighted jutsu, then his ultimate right after. That way if someone tries to run, they won't be going too far. And there's a few other ways as well for this jutsu to be effective. People running Sand Shield, Petrifying Jutsu, Nido Jizo, Water Pillar, all those who think they're safe in there can be one-shotted by this technique. Next up is Ino, and Ino is no question an S tier character. Mind Transfer is heavily slept on. 1, if you're able to catch an opponent with this, it takes a pretty big chunk of their ultimate ability out. 2, this is a great jutsu for pitfalling. And no, I am not talking about in the same way as Flame Lightning. That has its own category of pitfalling to a higher degree. If someone is chasing you around the sand village or the training ground, try using this jutsu when you're standing on a wall with no surface on the ground. I myself have been a victim to this many times. If you can successfully hit your opponents, they will immediately drop to the end zone, which is what I like to call it, and die, while also losing a chunk of their ultimate ability gauge. This jutsu can be very deadly if used right. The second new jutsu is the Mind Transfer Palm Sage, and this is no question the best healing jutsu in the game. You're able to heal all allies no matter how far they are across the map, and on top of this, it has a lower cooldown than jutsus like Heavenly Hand Power. Her ultimate ability is the Mind Transfer Clone Jutsu, and like I said before, works pretty similar to Feather Illusion Jutsu. Once activated, any enemy caught within the radius is unable to move, and you, as the user of this technique, has the option to either make all enemies self-explode or just hold them in place for a little while, which could be be used as a pretty good setup. The problem, however, and to be honest, thank God they did this, is that this Jutsu's damage got a huge nerf. It doesn't one-shot anymore, and to be honest, it's not even close. The range of the ultimate is still fairly good, but honestly, its damage is what's really damaging her here. The range of the ultimate is still fairly good, but honestly, its damage in general is what's really hurting her here. Especially since if you substitute right away as you take damage, you basically almost regain all the health that was taken. There's no after effects to this ultimate too, so in my opinion, I look at it as a trash version of the Feather Illusion. Its cooldown did get shorter, but not short enough to balance the nerf out. Like generally, the only reason Ino stays as an S tier is because her two ninjutsus carries her ultimate. And for the last and final character of my Naruto Shinobi Striker tier list, we have Mei. And Mei, of course, is an S tier character. Mei, just like Hinata, debatably has the best ultimate for heal types. It all depends on the situation, of course. Mei's first ninjutsu is the Water Pillar, and for how overused the jutsu is by every heal type, I gotta give credit to where it's due. This is a good jutsu. Water Pillar is a water barrier that allows you to protect whatever the objective is, whether it's base battle, or flag, or barrier, or hell, even yourself. The great thing about this jutsu is that you are free to move around however you like. You can activate another jutsu while in the pillar, or if you like, you can even go out of it and fight other players while the barrier is still active. Now mind that with the addition of Hokage Naruto, this jutsu does now have a lot of counters. Her second ninjutsu is the lava style technique, where she aims and spits lava to a desired location. This jutsu greatly slows down movement speed and jumping durability. In my opinion, this is amazing for base battle. Shit, her whole build is amazing for base battle. Her ultimate ability is the acid fog technique, which deals massive damage over time as long as you stay in it. This is exceptionally great for barrier attack because of the damage over time it does to the toad. This can also be used to defend the toad as well, meaning as long as it's active, projectile attacks are the only thing that's going to work. And that is all for my Naruto to Boruto Shinobi Striker character tier list. I've had a very small amount of people ask me to make a jutsu tier list, but I'm gonna have to decline. My boy Hidden Rose has already made some, so if you're interested, go ahead and check it out on his channel. As you may notice, none of the characters ended up being a D tier, because in my opinion, I feel like each character has at least something to bring to the game. Orochimaru, Sarada, Deidara all have something that few people could actually make work. D tier was meant to be listed for characters that literally don't bring anything beneficial to the game that nobody ever uses. Something like Mudwall. And if I were to say who's the best and worst character in the game, Hokage Naruto and Orochimaru. Hokage Naruto's jutsus deal massive damage and have amazing debuff effects. His ultimate ability also gives you and your teammates these crazy buffs. He's good for fighting and objective play, and no question the best character to come out of season 2. Orochimaru, despite having decent ninjutsus, there are so many other range types who can do what he does better. His ultimate ability's tracking is good for long distance. The damage is greatly inconsistent because sometimes it'll one shot and sometimes it only do like 75% of damage. On top of this, his kunai throws are straight booty cheeks. If you enjoyed the tier list series, please be sure to leave a like. And for more great content similar to this, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.